And welcome to Hannity, and this is a Fox News alert. The all-important GOP Senate primary race in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has yet to be called. Now, 6 days after Election Day. In fact, vote counting is still underway. Keep in mind, the state hasn't even begun the recount process. Every American should look at this and realize this is unacceptable. It's unacceptable for the people of Pennsylvania. It's unacceptable for every candidate. It's just unacceptable and something that should be easily fixed. Now, major democracies all over the world, they're able to produce nationwide results in a single night when they have tens of millions of people voting, but apparently not Pennsylvania. Now, recently, France determined a winner in their runoff presidential election in less than 24 hours, despite over 32 million votes being cast. Last year, Canada managed to confirm the results countrywide during a single day in what was a very close election. And in 2016, it took the United Kingdom, about a day to get the final results there during the Brexit referendum, despite 33.5 million votes cast in that election. But now it's taking the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania days, 6 days, maybe weeks, to count around 1 million votes in a Senate primary? So what's happening here? How did we get to this point? Well, for starters, the state's widespread mail-in voting is a big problem. Now, in 2019, Pennsylvania did pass a new law allowing no-excuse mail-in voting, which, by the way, and interestingly, violates that state's constitution. Constitution is very clear on this. Rather than go through the arduous process of having a constitutional amendment, which is harder than passing a law, they took the easy way out, which makes the act itself unconstitutional. In fact, the state's constitution explicitly states that absentee voting is only allowed, quote, in the event that a person's duties, occupation, or business require them to be elsewhere, or who, on the occurrence of any election, are unable to attend at their proper polling places because of illness or physical disability, or who will not attend a polling place because of the observance of a religious holiday, or who cannot vote because of Election Day duties in the case of a county employee. That's right there in the Constitution. But now this recent bill allows any voter to cast a ballot by mail for any reason in the weeks leading up to the election. Now, these ballots are accepted until 8 p.m. on Election Day, but cannot be opened or counted until day of voting is underway. Now, so you end up with problems like this. Look at Lancaster County, for one. More than 21,000 mail-in ballots could not be scanned because they were printed with the wrong identification code. There was also serious questions about mail-in ballots with missing dates and signatures. Now, we are tonight in the middle of an investigation on this program of a major potential contradiction from lawyers on this case. We will have a full report tomorrow, and we will give you all sides of that issue. Now, no matter how you look at this, it's a train wreck. And by the way, it can and it must be fixed. For example, we saw what happened in 2000, the presidential election in Florida, an unmitigated disaster. But to the credit of the Sunshine State, they resolved those problems, in part by counting absentee votes as they arrive and addressing any issues prior to Election Day. Now, of course, as I have said many times, for any state to have true election integrity, you need several things. You need mandatory voter ID laws, signature verification. Most states allow for partisan observers to watch the vote count from start to finish. That should be mandatory in every state, in my view. You got to have chain of custody protections for ballots. And, of course, you should update your voter rolls for every election. And I'll also add, unlike New York City and other places around the country, you need to be a citizen to be able to vote. And by the way, the vote needs to be counted in full in front of people from every single party there, up close, not 100 feet away, or not 1,000 feet away. Now, here we are, days and weeks of vote counting with results seemingly changing overnight does not inspire confidence or integrity in the process to anyone at all. Now, let's be blunt. If France can do it, I think we can do it too. But there's not much time. All of the states in this country, we need to get it right and get it right now. Tonight, we are just 5 months away from critical midterm elections. With the Democrats now in control in the House and Senate and the White House, our country is falling apart at the seams. Stagflation, Coming recession, spiking gas prices, a nationwide baby formula shortage, disaster at our southern border, over 1 million COVID deaths, and Americans still trapped in Afghanistan. If you're counting like we are, it's day 282 since Joe abandoned them behind enemy lines. But tonight, Joe Biden, he's in Asia, where he told Americans to suck it up and deal with rising gas prices because our country is going through an incredible transition. Take a look for yourself.
Here's the situation. When it comes to the gas prices, we're going through an incredible transition that is taking place that, God willing, when it's over, we'll be stronger and the world will be stronger and less reliant on fossil fuels when this is over.
Now, Joey actually said the quiet part out loud. Apparently, high gas prices are the point. Now, the suffering is intentional? Is that what you're telling us? They want this country to transition into a socialist eco-state hellhole, which would not be possible with low energy costs. Of course, energy is the lifeblood of the world's economy. Joe Biden's policies artificially reduce the world's supply. Is it any shock that demand remained constant and even increased, that the price goes up and we're all paying the price? The average family, because of Biden inflation, nearly $6,000 a year. If you drive a car every day, you're going to pay about $2,000 more for gasoline this year. We'll see how high the number goes by the end of the year. But remember this. It was only 4 years ago to the day, 4 years ago today, Chuck Schumer posed in front of a gas station and then berated then-President Trump for high gas prices, which at the time were under $3 a gallon. Now we're talking about gas prices at $6 a gallon. It's $4.71 is the average today. Take a look.
President Trump's reckless decision to pull out of the Iran deal has led to higher oil prices. These higher oil prices are translating directly to soaring gas prices, something we know disproportionately hurts middle and lower income people. Final price of gas under Obama, $2.36. Current price for gas under Trump, $2.92. Mr. President, you can't blame this on President Obama as you try to blame everything on him. It's time for you to act.
Time for you to act. Well, the climate alarmist religious cult, they're the ones that are pushing Joe Biden to not drill for oil, not frack for gas. We have gas now poised, as we told you last week, J.P. Morgan predicting $6 a gallon average nationwide. Where's Chucky now? $4.71 is the national average today, Chuck. Now, he's not out posing outside of an Exxon Mobil station. He's not screaming and yelling about the plight of the working men and women in this country, or he's not lecturing or threatening Supreme Court justices on the steps of the Supreme Court. It's almost as if he doesn't really care about the middle class and was only using them as a political prop to, of course, bludgeon Donald Trump. Chuck Schumer is a big reason why Americans don't trust politicians. And then there's our wonderful Vice President, Kamala Harris. While Joe is busy in Asia, she's holding down the fort right here at home, and it's going about as well as you might expect. Take a look for yourself.
You know, when we talk about our children, I know for this group, we all believe that when we talk about the children of the community, they are children of the community.
The community. It's like an episode of Veep, but whatever, if you like to watch these shows. Anyway, according to multiple polls, Joe and Kamala, they're hitting record lows in pretty much every poll. According to a new AP survey, not only is Biden's approval at a new low, he's also hemorrhaging support among members of his own base. Biden is losing support, dramatic support from the African-American community, Hispanic Americans. He's lost 40% of their vote in one poll. The youth vote he's losing, a majority of voters believing Joe is both incompetent and distracted. But don't worry, because the dumbest guy in Washington, Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, thinks his boss is doing better than ever. In response to a new CBS poll showing that nearly 70% of you, the American people, think the economy is bad and Biden is slow to react, Ron Klain is out there tweeting, quote, "I hate to spoil the rhetoric, but this poll shows the president's approval rating moving up and solid public confidence on the two biggest problems he inherited, COVID and jobs." Really? Okay. We ran out of tests on your watch. Anyway, remember, more people still blame Joe. Joe, by the way, last week's Quinnipiac poll had him at 32% approval rating, and that's among everybody. Now, unfortunately, most people simply cannot afford to live in Ron Klain's fantasy world. In fact, 64% of you, the American people, because of Biden inflation, the higher cost of every item we buy in every store we go to, record high after record high after record high gas prices. 64% of Americans in this country are now living paycheck to paycheck. I've been there for many years in my early adult life. It's not a fun place to be. You have bills being, can't be paid. You have cars you got to put gas in to run so you can get to work, groceries to buy, meat's getting more expensive than ever, spiking inflation, spiking gas prices, coupled with a looming recession. It is devastating to these Americans. But Ron Klain just doesn't seem to understand. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.